Coffee prices are about to explode. President Trump just announced a 50% tariff on Brazilian coffee starting on August 1st. Why does that matter? Brazil supplies, get this, 33% of all the coffee we drink in the U.S. That's over 800 million pounds a year of coffee now hit with a massive new tax. And that's already hitting the market and affecting prices. Coffee futures just jumped 3.5% in one day. And that price spike, guess where it's going? It's headed right to you. Experts say prices at grocery stores and coffee shops could jump 20 to 50% depending on how long these tariffs last. And it gets worse. It's not just coffee. Brazil supplies, who knew this, over 60% of the orange juice we import and 21% of beef imports. That's over 230,000 tons a year, all from Brazil. All of it now facing the same 50% tariff. Orange juice prices just surged 6% in the past day, I just checked, and beef could be next. Here's the good news. You can buy coffee and beef in bulk. Coffee stays good a very long time. You can also freeze beef. So my advice is to do that right now. Make a Costco run, make a grocery run before these items go sky high. You don't have much time because the tariffs are starting on August 1st and prices may change even before that. This one is going to hurt because these aren't luxury items. This isn't electronics or Apple or Nike sneakers. These are essentials. It's food. It's a burger, juice, groceries, all getting more expensive. Follow for updates. I'm staying on top of this for you.
I am a bona fide coffee drinker. And the one I enjoy most, sometimes I drink the Dunkin', but I enjoy the Maxwell House. Look at the price of this. Since when did coffee become $16.99? The most I've ever paid for that size is $10. $16. What, they done put some drugs in it or something? What's going on? And I came by Folgers, which is the one on sale, because I just found out Folgers supports them. So, boycotting that. So what am I drink? Even a Dunkin' Donut is $13. Now, for those of you that are not coffee drinkers, you probably don't care. But I care. Oh, I see some Signature cheaper coffee. $6.99. But you coffee drinkers know how important this is. They playing around with us. Get your coffee wherever you can for a cheaper price.
Get ready for coffee prices to go through the roof as Donald Trump just jacked up tariffs on coffee from Colombia, our major importer of coffee, by 50%. That's 90% of its coffee imported. We do not make coffee here in America. We do in Hawaii, but just a very little bit. The largest amount comes from Colombia. Colombia is about 27% of the coffee we import. So a quarter of our coffee in America comes from Colombia. Well, Trump got pissed at them today, hit them with a 25% tariff immediately, and next week it's going to be 50% tariff. That means the price of coffee potentially is going to go up 50%. At least a quarter of our coffee. That's a hell of a lot of coffee in America. Get ready for your Starbucks. So what's going on is Trump is ticked at Colombia because he has been deporting folks, including Colombians who are here illegally in the U.S., and the Colombians said they would take these people back. The flights got midair, U.S. military flights filled with these people, and the Colombians said, nope, not taking them. So Trump is pissed at them, hitting them with tariffs. The problem, as I said, is what Trump either doesn't realize or isn't telling you is tariffs are a tax on you and me. Tariffs are inflation. That's what tariffs are. Trump keeps saying, oh, people abroad, the foreign countries are going to pay and we're going to become rich. No, we aren't. What you're literally doing is increasing the price of the product, the cheese, the coffee, the refrigerator, the phone. You're making it more expensive when it comes into the U.S., so the base price is now higher. Who has to pay that? You and me. So coffee just got hit with 25%. It's going to go up to 50% in a week. Get ready for coffee prices to get very expensive, in addition to eggs now going through the roof. But Donald Trump is on it because he banned Black history in the military. So everything's going to be great, guys, other than the fact that everything's going to be crazy expensive. So welcome.
Please explain to me why in America I'm spending $5 for an espresso for a 20-second activity. Dear Mr. Restaurant, you pay your employee $15 an hour and you pay your coffee 20 cents. I understand if I went to a restaurant where your employee was making $1,500 an hour. Now they're making $15. Why do I have to pay $5 for an espresso? Even at the top restaurants in Italy, if I'm going to a top-notch restaurant in Italy, the coffee is $3. If I'm going to a bar, it's $1.20. And I understand the cost of living and everything. It's a fucking espresso. It's a 20-cent thing also in America. I know it because I make coffee at home. A coffee is not just caffeine. It should also be something social, something that you take with friends. can you make it an actual activity? Can you make the most common social activity a little bit more affordable for everybody? I should not complain because I'm okay with money, but I'm talking for everybody else. In Italy, we meet for a coffee because we know it's simple. We're doing something. We can sit somewhere in some cute place and talk. Why are 2 coffees the cost of a plate of pasta in a restaurant in Italy? We should go to jail for this. Most bars in Italy do not survive on the coffees alone. They make money on everything else. The coffee is just something to get you in the bar, and then you make money on everything else. I should create a bar just based on that concept and call it Boycott Starbucks.
The tariff must have really hit the coffee industry, because I'm telling you right now, the prices that I'm seeing right here in my grocery store is absolutely insane. Check this out. So you mean to tell me that now Starbucks is $15.29? I could swear I only paid like $10 or $11 or even less. But it's not only that, it's all these other coffees that were originally before $8.99. This one is $7.99. The Dunkin' Donuts, that's the sale. Ugh, do not like Dunkin'. But everything else, $17, $14. The price has definitely gone up for all the coffees. Now there's a buy one, get one free on this coffee. Oh, but let me look at the coffee pods to see how much that has gone up. Yep, they're like at $12. Just a 12-pack of coffee pods at $12.69. This is absolutely insane. The tariffs affect us, I guess, guys. And you know what? I need my coffee. I'm gonna spend $15.29. Oh boy.
What the fuck? What the fuck? $17.49 for 1 can of coffee in America. This used to be $11.99 a month and a half ago. Yeah. Are we gonna go uncaffeinated in America? Because of what the fuck? What the fuck? $17.49 for one.
$17.33. That's how much I paid today for this coffee. I'm here and I'm just adding some numbers together and doing my budget, because you know what? Today I asked my husband, where's the money? We're making the best we've ever made. Both earners, both incomes, good incomes and everything. And we don't have money. We're living paycheck to paycheck, basically. So I put the numbers together and I decided to look at my budget. On June the 2nd, 2023, and I'm going to try to insert somewhere here the photo I took a shot of, how much I paid for it. On June the 2nd, 2023, the same exact coffee was $9.92. It's almost doubled in 2 years. Of course, my salary hasn't doubled. My income has not doubled. It went up a little bit, but certainly nowhere near that. And I don't know where my money goes. Every month, I'm struggling.
This coffee right here at Costco has more than doubled in price in the last 6 months. I know firsthand because I've been buying this coffee for the last 5 years. Super, super depressing because I actually love that coffee. It's like the best dark roast they had here. And it was such a good deal for the longest time at $9.99. These same mixed nuts right here, I was buying a few months ago for $12.99. We're talking about 50 to 100% price increases on these items. You guys probably know my 2 favorite things from Costco are the coffee and the nuts. So this is hitting me hard. So many imported products like the oil they have here, the rice they have down there, are seeing astronomical increases in price because of these tariffs. And it's specifically because of these tariffs, because I've tracked these prices for a long time, and a lot of these prices at Costco are still going down. Now, Brazil produces more coffee than any other country in the world, and they just got hit on Wednesday with 50% tariffs, and Trump says they might even go higher. For most items here at the grocery store, even ones that are imported like bananas or cocoa or something like that, the price increases have seemed negligible. And the sad part is, even if the tariffs went away tonight, I bet the prices would not go down. Now, what are you guys seeing the biggest price increases on?
Got my morning coffee for the day. Man, coffee prices are through the roof. We have to have a United States senator that's focused on tariff policy that lowers prices. When I'm United States senator, unlike Senator Hyde-Smith, I'm going to be the voice for consumers, making sure I'm more worried about your pocketbooks than DC politics.
Coffee prices in Canada are exploding, and it's not by accident. Ever since Mark Carney's boycott stunt against the US, imports The fallout, it's all been brutal. Shelves are emptier, prices are higher, and Canadians are realizing what happens when woke politics mess with trade reality. You see, Trump warned that this would happen. You can't cut off America and also expect to get your economy to survive the way it has always survived for a long time. Now, Canada's morning coffee just became the latest casualty.
Canada's iconic coffee chain Tim Hortons is charging more for a cup, reflecting a wider trend of rising coffee prices. The price of coffee beans has more than doubled over the last 3 years, according to a Tim Hortons spokesperson. This is related to U.S. tariffs, as Canada imported 3.9 million kilograms of roasted coffee in July, with most coming from the U.S. Joining us now is Sylvain Charlebois, Senior Director at Agri-Foods Analytics Lab. Sylvain, thanks for being here.
Good morning, Renee.
So can you break down this rise in coffee prices for us?
We were expecting this for a while now. In fact, if you look at coffee prices, they've been up since April. It's now at $3.85 a pound U.S., which is almost double of the 5-year average. And that's due to the fact that in Brazil, they've been challenged by inclement weather. Because of La Nina, they're expecting more dry weather over the next several months.
So I'm going to talk about what's really going on here because the media won't tell you. At least the mainstream media won't tell you. You've probably noticed already your morning Tim Hortons run suddenly costs more. That extra 50 cents on your double-double, well, it's not random inflation. Ground coffee prices in Canada have increased by 19% in 2025. Canada is being impacted by new tariffs and retaliatory pricing on imported goods. So now everything's getting more expensive. It's the direct result of failed economic leadership. The kind that turns political posturing into national pain. You see, people love coffee. And when they don't get the coffee, some people get really mad. Coffee prices are surging across Canada, and it's not just because of the weather in Brazil. This is what happens when Mark Carney and his crew try to play global politics with America and end up burning Canadian consumers instead. They tweaked up older brother, and now they're getting a beatdown. So, let's be clear. Canada does not grow coffee. Be amazing if it did, but it doesn't. It buys it. And a big chunk of that coffee comes through the United States, where it's roasted, processed, and shipped north. So when the U.S. slaps on tariffs on imports, thanks to years of global mismanagement and anti-American trade positioning, Canada pays the price.
For a coffee drinker like me, I've got some really bad news for you. Prices of Arabica coffee are now skyrocketing as a result of Donald Trump's feud with Colombia. And just so you have a sense of it, Arabica coffee accounts for about 60 to 70% of all coffee produced in the entire world. Now, I want to be clear that this is happening right now, even though Donald Trump and the Colombian president have paused their tariffs on one another. That's because when Donald Trump makes these various threats, he throws the market into a period of instability. The instability in this case is driving up prices in a big way to record highs. And you don't have to take my word for it. Here's an article from the Wall Street Journal, which is owned by Rupert Murdoch, who owns Fox News. Arabica coffee prices hit new high on U.S. Colombia tariff spat. The actions provide important context to commodities markets, with tariffs looming over Canada, Mexico, and China. So to put it simply, coffee is a commodity. It's traded freely on the open market. And continuous Arabica coffee futures on the market rose 0.8% to $3.50 a pound in midday trading in Europe, having reached as high as $3.56 earlier in the session. That is a new high. The previous high was back in December, and that was caused by global supply issues as a result of a poor harvest in Brazil. This time it is a completely self-inflicted wound by Donald Trump, and as a reminder, this is before any tariffs even go into effect. Those tariffs are currently paused. So if those tariffs actually are added on, expect coffee prices to skyrocket even more. And tariffs on Colombia would affect even much more than just coffee. The U.S. imports 30% of its coffee from Colombia, but it also imports other food staples like bananas and avocados and gold. I'm going to keep sharing all the biggest updates with you, so make sure you're following along now so you never miss one.
Trigger warning. If you enjoy coffee and hamburgers, what I'm about to tell you is going to make you upset. Trump just dropped a 50% tariff on Brazil's coffee and beef. starting August 1st. You heard that correct, 50%. And experts are saying that the price of coffee in stores and coffee shops could jump between 20 and 50%. And ground beef could skyrocket to $9 a pound. Now keep in mind it's going to take a few months for these prices to fully spike, which means now is the best time to stock up. But let me ask you, do you think adding a 50% tariff on coffee and burgers is what America First should look like? Leave a comment below and follow me for more updates.
Trump's Liberation Day tariffs have now hit raw coffee beans, a product previously exempt due to high demand and the fact that the U.S. can't grow much of it. Coffee needs tropical altitudes found mostly near the equator to grow, so over 99% of what Americans drink is imported, primarily from Brazil, which supplies 30% of U.S. coffee. The U.S. is the largest consumer of coffee in the world, with 66% of Americans drinking it daily, and the industry supporting 1.7 million jobs. In April, Trump imposed a 10% tariff on nearly all imported coffee. But last week, Brazil was hit with a 50% tariff, reportedly for political reasons tied to the country prosecuting Trump ally and former president Jair Bolsonaro. These tariffs squeeze small and mid-sized roasters who pay the duties when beans arrive. Many will pass these costs off to consumers, with some cafes already raising prices 50 cents to $1 per cup. Because the U.S. can't grow much coffee, the policy raises prices without creating jobs, unlike tariffs on goods that can be made domestically. While some Americans support the Trump administration's trade policy because they want to see production come back to the United States, imposing tariffs on coffee doesn't make much sense when we can't really grow it here. So all it does is raise prices for consumers and hurt your wallet.
Did you know what happened the last 48 hours? The United States government imposed a 50% tariff on Brazil. A lot of people are saying, well, who cares? You know, those people, Brazilians, are going to come to their knees in the Congo, come back and beg us to allow them to sell in our country. Do you know who's paying that 50%? You and me. So I'm drinking the coffee that I'm paying 50% more for. And do you know what Brazil does for the United States? They import $49 billion worth of American goods into their country. All the aircrafts, the automotive, the machineries, the plastic, the pharmaceutical, they buy it all from us. $49 billion worth of material, that's what they're buying from the United States. And we are complaining about their coffee when we can get it from Colombia. But what they buy from us is much bigger than what we buy from them. So 50% tariff, huh? I guess that's just what we have to deal with going forward. Well, let's see that they probably negotiate. Hopefully they will. Cheers.
Hi, I'm Emily. I'm a coffee importer, and I want to take a moment to tell you a little bit about how the Brazil tariffs are going to impact coffee imports. So first, just real quick, a little background. I've been in importing for about 7 years and coffee for about 15. Let's get into Brazil. So August 1st, new tariffs were announced, and it's pretty confusing. So I wanted to tell you just really quickly how the tariffs are going to work when coffee comes into the United States. Brazil produces 30% of the coffee that the United States imports. It's not a supply chain that can be replaced. The United States consumes 3.6 billion pounds of coffee each year, and we can only produce 20 million pounds of coffee. So that's a really big gap that we have to fill. Brazil is also a really unique country in that Brazil cost of production of coffee is really low because of unique climate and topography. It allows coffee to be mechanically processed or mechanically harvested, and so it's pretty inexpensive to grow and harvest coffee in Brazil. For that reason, it is the base of most things. Any blend that you see, any espresso that gets used, it's usually based on Brazil. So when we're bringing coffee in from Brazil, here's how it's going to work. These are tariffs. There is not a single penny that's going to be paid by the exporting country. I don't care what the government says, not a penny will be paid by the exporting country. The importer in the United States is going to bring that container of coffee, so that box of coffee over from Brazil, it's going to go to the port, at which point it's going to go through customs. At the point that it goes through customs, it's going to be like we have to file customs paperwork, and we have to identify we have a customs broker who identifies all of the different fees and regulations that are applicable to this coffee. So Brazilian coffee is going to be hit by the code 9903.01.77. That's a 40% tariff that comes from the recent executive order that was put forward about a month ago. And it's also going to be hit by 9903.02.09, which is the 10% tariff that was announced last night. All of the tariff codes stack, so that comes out to being a 50% tariff. And that's 50% based on whatever the value was labeled in the customs paperwork. So if it gets labeled that the value of that a pound of Brazilian coffee is $4, then it's going to be an additional $2 in tariff. That fee has to be paid up front by the importer before customs will release the coffee. So it's not like we can sell it and then take that money and use it to pay for the tariff. Like you would, if you were roasting coffee, right? You could sell it and then you could pay your bill, and that's kind of how things work. It doesn't work that way with tariffs. We need to pay that up front before we can release the coffee. And if we don't pay it, it's going to accumulate additional fees for being held and stored. So it has to get paid. And because these tariffs have been so unpredictable, nobody's got cash laying around, and we certainly don't have an extra 40, 60. I think on our last container of Brazil, we would be looking at like $100,000 in tariff costs if that comes through. So nobody's got that laying around, nobody. So you have to go to a bank and get that money financed. So additionally, on top of paying the 50% tariffs, you're also going to be paying 12% interest, 6% interest, whatever. You're going to be paying interest on that money. So that is